Candace. Welcome to my large family channel. I'm so glad you're here. I will be showing you how to make easy artisan bread. All right, let's get started. Okay, so we're gonna do a 1.5 tablespoons of coarse salt, kosher salt. Any salt will do, but the coarse salt is good. 1.5 tablespoons of yeast, 3 cups of warm water, and you don't want the water hot because you don't want to kill the yeast, so we just want it warm to activate it. Just kind of give it a little stir to mix. Okay, the reason I'm doing this in the bucket is because it stores really well in the refrigerator, and you just set a lid on it and it can go for up to 2 weeks. I made a batch earlier, which I will show you what it looks like once it's risen a little bit. Okay, so now we're just gonna add about 7 cups of flour, and I am using unbleached flour, but go ahead and use whatever you have. And just go ahead and dump in all of it. This is a no-knead dough, so this is very simple. This is 4. Dad, you can speed up for all this. 6. All right, and 7. Okay, now we're just gonna mix it. This is a no-knead dough. I'm not sure if I already said that. So you're just mixing it until it comes together and it's not floury. What I'm using here is called a Danish dough whisk, and it just is really nice to get down in the bucket. You have a nice long arm, but if you don't have one of these, anything that you have is just fine. But these are pretty handy, and I will link it in the description box in case you are interested. I just ordered it off of Amazon. Okay, so that's it. It's kind of, you know, it doesn't look like a soft bread dough, but that's okay. This is all you need to do with it. And then we're just gonna gently set a lid on it. You don't want to seal it, just set a lid on it. And you want it to sit for at least 2 hours before we go on to the next step. My girls usually make this, and they usually make it first thing in the morning. And we actually just let it sit out pretty much all day until we're ready to bake it up for dinner. And so we'll be back when we're ready for the next step. Okay, so here is what the dough is gonna look like. I don't know if you can see that without the glare, but this is what it looks like a few hours later after it's been sitting out. And so it will be slightly wet, but that's okay. So what you're gonna do is just get a little bit of flour and just kind of sprinkle it over the top. By the way, this batch makes 3 loaves. But for our family, we usually just make it into 2 loaves. And we kind of do, you can do a round, like a bowl shape, or you can do it in an oval shape. And so we just tend to do 2 larger oval shapes so that it fits on the pan. Okay, so I didn't need a whole lot of flour, but I am gonna sprinkle some flour on the counter. And I'm not gonna knead it, I'm just gonna divide the dough in half and shape it. So let me make sure you can see here. Just try to get 2 even pieces. And if you've never made artisan bread, you've got to try it. It's just the easiest bread in the world to make. You mix up the dough, just let it sit, and then all you have to do is shape it. And you have just the best bread to serve with your dinner. Okay, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more flour, just kind of shape it into a loaf. And what I did was I flipped a cookie sheet pan. I flipped it over so it's upside down, and then I just laid a piece of parchment over it because the dough will not stick to the parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, you can use foil, but go ahead and spray the foil just so the bread does not stick to it. Okay, so we have one, and now let's shape our second loaf. Okay. All right, now we have our 2 loaves. And at this point, we want to go ahead and preheat the oven. We're going to preheat it to 450. Okay, you want to make sure that your oven rack is in its lowest position because it bakes at a very high temperature. And you want to make sure it will brown on the top, but you don't want it to get super dark. So let's check that. Okay, I have it on the lowest setting. Then you just want to take a serrated knife and just give it a few slits on the top. Okay. So at this point, you just let it sit, and it takes, depending on your oven, it might take 15 to 20 minutes of rising time. And so while your oven is heating up, you just let it sit, and we'll come back for the next step. Okay, so now the oven has been preheated, and as you can tell, the loaves have risen a little bit. They don't rise a whole lot. But you could tell they did rise a little bit. And so now we're going to get them in the oven, and then I will show you the little trick that makes the outside nice and crispy. Okay. Now you're going to take about a 1/3 cup of water, and we're just going to throw it right into the oven. If you have a gas oven, I'm not quite sure about this method, but I have an electric oven and I throw it away from the coils, so you might want to check on that. But this is the secret to getting that nice crispy outer crust, and it stays nice and moist on the inside. So you hear all that nice steam. Okay, so now I am going to set my timer for 30 minutes. Okay, and we'll be back when it's all finished. I wanted to mention here that this recipe is actually an adaptation of a book that you may have heard of called Artisan Bread in 5 minutes. And the recipe has just been changed a little bit, but it's a great book, and you can do many different variations of this bread. You can even mix things in. Years ago, we were raising funds for missions trips for our daughter, and so we sold a lot of this artisan bread and mixed in rosemary and different cheeses, and we even made a chocolate coconut. So it's very versatile and very easy, but I did want to mention that this is not my original recipe. I just changed it a little bit, and I will also link the book in the description below. All right, let's check on our bread. Okay, and through the magic of YouTube TV, here is the finished bread. Nice golden brown, crispy bread. I'll cut into it so you can see. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be sure and link the recipe below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Bye.